My name is Eliud Hidalgo, and I've experienced the power of Calvary. When I grew up, as the son of a pastor, and my mom was a missionary. You know, mom and dad taught us everything the right way, but we went our own ways and we started doing our own things. I realized that though the enemy wanted me dead, God had a purpose for my life. I had my two sons. I had Timothy and Tyler, and things didn't go okay with my wife that I was with, and we broke up, and I left to Florida. There was times where I was alone in Florida crying, you know, to believing that I was crazy or believing that I abandoned my children. I remember my son writing me a letter at 7 years old stating, "Dad, I know that you're going this and that, but I know that I know you're going to be here and you're going to come back." You know, a 7-year-old boy writing a letter like that broke my heart. I remember going to church in Florida one day, and the Holy Spirit was moving, and I remember the pastor saying, "God is in this place." And I was having a battle because I felt the Spirit telling me get up, and the enemy saying sit down. And it was until the Spirit, I literally got up and I stood up there because I thought that I was crazy. I thought I was losing my mind. And God used this pastor to tell me that you're not crazy. You're not losing your mind. I brought you here for a purpose, and your children will be fine. Right there, I knew it was God because nobody knew what I was praying about. And then my son, I used to bring him to Florida when they were little. I brought him to church, and he said that's when he really experienced who God truly is and what God is all about. He was 8 years old at the time, and from that day he started praying, and he started praying for me to come home. When he became 14 years old, God brought me back here to Rhode Island to be with my children. There was times where I was going around, I didn't know, I was confused. I got hurt in church. I left church, and I really didn't understand it. But I came here one day, I met Pastor Herson. For 5 minutes we had a conversation, and the conversation was so good. And then I remember that they had a tent revival, and I went to tent revival. What caught me was that I was sitting back there quietly, and I watched my kids worship God like I'd never seen them before. And that just struck me in my heart. Something overcame me that I was watching them, and I caught a glimpse of a vision of how my mother and father would watch me. After that, I went home and I would look at myself. I wasn't doing the right things. I was, you know, doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. And I started looking at myself in the mirror, and I just didn't like what I saw. There was a lot of pain, and I was crying out to God in the mirror saying, "God, I need you." I cried out to God. I was like, "God, I don't like who I am. I can't stand to look at myself that way." And so I started coming to church. God said to me, "See, when you do things on your own, it doesn't work. But when you do it my way, it always works." And one day, I just was driving in the car, and I screamed out to God, and I said, "God, you promised me." Within months, my wife agreed to marry me. I married it, and then that's when I started feeling free. I felt chains and stuff falling. The power of Calvary, Jesus Christ, is what you need in your life. You need a relationship with Him. Whatever you go through, only God can comfort you in that situation. Only God can pull you out of the deep things that are holding you down. Only God can release you and make you free. What my mother taught me from little, what my father taught me from a little kid, instructed me in the ways of the Lord. And I would always come back. That's what it says, instruct your children in the ways of the Lord, and you will always come back to the Lord. And now I'm back, and there's nothing that can take me away from God. I don't care what pain I go through. I don't care what situation I go through. Nothing's going to separate me from God because He's the one. And now that God has moved me for my purpose, you know, I became the deacon of Calvary Worship Center. I mean, I experienced love. I experienced love in such a way. I experienced the power of Calvary Worship Center through the love of people who want to listen to my story and want to be there as a friend, as a brother, as brothers in Christ. There's something about Calvary that there's love and there's joy and there's happiness and people just come together. I mean, this place is amazing, and I'm not just saying that because I come to this church, but I experienced in my life when I was deep and hurt, they helped me. They picked me up. They were there for me. They called me. When I was sick, they called me. When my wife went through a heart attack, they were there. But man, there was so much pain inside. I thought I was going to lose my wife. I thought I was going to lose it. But God gave me strength there. And I realized I can't live without God. My life will be empty without God. God saved me for a purpose. But I need you to know this, because I need you to know that you need Jesus. And without Jesus, there's nothing. Your sadness, He turns into joy. His love is so consuming. No one's ever going to love you more than He is. He died on the cross so that you can have life and have it in abundance.